and future yogis. My name is Elizabeth Hay. I'm sorry that I can't be joining you at the St. Paul's United Methodist Health Fair, but I just want to thank St. Paul's for putting on this health fair and inspiring healthy living, and particularly allowing me to present to you yoga, because I believe 100% that yoga is something that all people should participate in. Not only as a part of a healthy lifestyle, but also just total body wellness from the inside out. It's one of the only exercises, or it is the only exercise you can do where you're not only working your physical body, you're nourishing the central nervous system with breath, but you're also working on your brain and making sure that you're being mindful and intentional and controlling the thoughts and finding some mental discipline. So again, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a yoga teacher here in State College. I teach all types of yoga to all types of people. I believe yoga can be for everybody. You can have a vigorous practice if you like moving more. You can have a gentle practice if you just need to restore your body. You can increase flexibility, range of motion. I use yoga for athletes and yoga as therapy. I also live here in State College with my 5 children and my husband, and we own and run an engineering firm, so I understand yoga for de-stressing the body, and overall it's great for changing the stress level. Also, from a spiritual standpoint, yoga can be a great way to bring your spiritual life onto your mat and into your practice and just really go deeper. Myself, I practice holy yoga, and I really recommend, if you are a Christian, that you look into it and you find me in a holy yoga class here locally. It's just a great way to harness just a way to move deeper in prayer. If we can release all the physical tensions in our body, we can move deeper to our spiritual side. So not just for Christians, but really for everybody to tap into their spiritual side. So I look forward to doing some yoga with you. Stay tuned, and I will bring you some more. Okay guys, let's get started. Before we actually move into our physical posture, if you're new to yoga, I wanted to go over a couple things. Number one, this is a yoga block. It's just a foam block. You can usually get these at Five Below if you have one of those around you, or you can get them on my website, www.elizabethhay-yoga.com. They're great to support the body in different ways and different postures. They also, just something that if you're new, just to be comfortable with having it close by. There's lots of different variations and ways that we can use this throughout the practice, and if you're following me, I will be implementing these a lot. Number 2 is a yoga strap. So you've probably seen these before. They're just a canvas strap. They are great for leg stretches, hamstring stretches, especially for tight legs, also extending the low back in certain postures. Definitely pick up one of these. You'll want to have one around. If you're just getting started, you don't have one, you can use a scarf or a belt or something to start out, but just these are super cheap. Again, you can get these on my website as well. An important part of your practice is to have a block and a strap, and also, of course, a yoga mat. I recommend spending more than $20 on a yoga mat, or at least $20 and up, because they start to break down if you're going to be using them as often as I think you should be using them, which is daily. They will start to kind of crumble and you'll get little pieces around. So spend at least $20 on a yoga mat. Get yourself a decent one that you can really be comfortable using in the long run. So if you are following along with my yoga guide on my website, the at-home yoga guide, or if you have a physical copy, I'm going to move along this with this guide. So it's a great at-home practice. It's written very simply, so you can just read it from start to finish and understand everything in there. There's no yoga Sanskrit or anything like that that will confuse you if you're new to the practice. So a very simple guide. Use that along with these videos. So a couple things before we get started with our physical practice. I wanted to touch in on breath and mindfulness. So starting with breath. Breath is something that is very important to use throughout your practice. You want to make sure you're not holding your breath, which a lot of people do, especially if you're new at it. Give yourself some grace. Just notice if you're holding your breath and then start to breathe again. Don't get caught up on when to breathe, inhale, exhale, those kind of things. The breath will come naturally, just as long as you're breathing. And as we get more advanced in our practice and we build on, we will start to build on when to breathe. So inhaling on certain postures and exhaling as we move. So those are things you want to keep in mind with the breath. You want to make sure that you use the exhale to kind of let go of any tension and use the inhale to be filled up. So if you want to practice that breath, it's long, deep inhales through the nose and exhales to let go. And we will add on to that as we start our physical practice. The art of mindfulness is something that yogis try to bring into their practice. It helps to not only exercise the physical body, but also the brain, which is actually the biggest muscle in charge of most of the body. So we really need to exercise the brain. So we set intentions in yoga. You may have heard that before, or we can call them prayers, whatever you want to refer to them as, but ways to kind of focus your mind, align your thoughts, so that you're not distracted, especially if you want to do a lot of self-complaining when things get tough. You want to have an intention. It can be a prayer, a Bible verse, or just a simple thought, like a simple word, joy, hope. So as you start to move into your practice, you just kind of mutter these words over and over to yourself as you start to see your mind wander to whatever is coming ahead of your practice, or whatever you did before your practice. So just kind of try to focus on that. We're not going to get too deep into mindfulness in this beginning video, but just try to stay focused and control the thoughts throughout practice. So a couple quick tips before we get started. Number one, tune out distractions. If you are practicing while your kids are running through the room or your roommate's walking in and out of the house, probably not a good idea. Find a time that you can actually practice where you can have some quiet, alone space. It's fine to practice with a friend. Just make sure that you guys are on the same page. Number two, don't get caught up in the rules. A lot of people resist coming to yoga because they feel like they can't do certain poses, they can't breathe at the right time, it has to look a certain way. All I ask is that if you're doing yoga, that you just come with an open mind, ready to learn more about your body and how it moves. And at the end of the day, we should try to unwind all the physical tensions we can so that we can move closer to a restful state. And number three, be safe. Let your body be your guide. If it doesn't feel good, you probably shouldn't be doing it. There's a difference between a stretch and an injury. So just definitely be following those different cues your body is giving you. Okay, so we're working into a space, finding our edge, but we're not working into a space that just really doesn't feel right. So that's it. I'm ready to help you get started on your phase one of your physical practice. I'll see you on your mat. Okay, let's start in a seated position. When you're ready, make your way to lying on your back. Go ahead and take the bottoms of your feet together in butterfly pose, and you can take your hands either down by your sides or to your hips. And just take a moment to find the breath. Find your inhale and find your exhale. As you become more at ease, begin to deepen your breath. Longer inhales and longer exhales. Notice that the breath begins to relax you. From here, go ahead and take your hands out to the sides and flop your knees over to the left-hand side for a lying twist. Try not to force this pose, but just take a few deep breaths as you feel the back side of the body, the spine, begin to open up, but also the expansion through the heart and chest. Begin to move the knees up and over to the opposite side, and just allowing yourself to gently open up and awaken. Just a few deep breaths here. On your next inhale, Go ahead and draw the knees back up to center. Good. And then plant the feet directly underneath the knees, hands down by the sides. We're going to move here into dynamic bridge pose. It's really important that the ankles are underneath the knees. From here, slowly begin to lift the seat up off the ground, and then slowly lower the back down, one vertebrae at a time. So you're really concentrating on inhaling to rise up, tucking the tailbone in and lifting up, feeling the entire back side of the body engage, and then exhale, slowly coming down, down, down. Good, let's just take a couple more like this. Inhale to lift up. And exhale, just using your breath, going with your own timing, slowly begin to come down. Good, inhale up. And then from here, we're going to stay. So make sure that the knees are staying in line with the ankles so they're not tracking outside the hips. And then walk the hands a little bit closer to the ankles. Continue to press the back side of the body open by lifting the hips as high as you can. And then as you're ready, slowly come on down. Just warming up the muscles. Let's move on to the legs. Hug the right knee in towards the heart, left knee into the heart, and just rock gently side to side, massaging the low back on the mat. Just a little release for the back before we move to the legs. Hug the right knee in towards the chest, and then extend the leg by grabbing behind the hamstring. A tiny little bend in the knee will help you to just really stretch only the hamstring. Maybe try flexing the foot or pointing the foot, spreading the toes apart, but really plug that right hip down towards the floor and then tug back on the leg. And from here, you're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee and gently press the right palm into the thigh of the right leg. Also here, you want to make sure that you're flexing the right foot to protect the knee. Don't forget to breathe. Good, go ahead and release. A little stretch for the right leg, and then lower the right leg down, moving on to the same pose on the left side. So hug the left knee in towards the heart and then extend the leg. Keep a tiny little bend in the knee. So we're not really focusing on a straight leg here, more just getting to know that left hamstring. Gently pull back on the left leg. Toes come towards the forehead. Make sure you're breathing. I like to focus on breathing into any tight spaces of the body, especially in the leg here. From here, go ahead and cross that left ankle over the right knee, flex the left foot vigorously, and then press the left hand into that left thigh, just helping to open up the hip. Good. Everything's at ease here. So your left hand is engaged into that left thigh, but the rest of your body, your face, your rib cage, your teeth, there's no gripping. You're absolutely relaxed. Okay, go ahead and just take a little stretch for that left leg, unwind, and release down to the floor. Take a big stretch for the spine here. Find cactus arms so your hands look like a T, and just take a moment to feel the spine. So from the crown of the head to the tailbone, just really feel that entire back against the floor. And then start to firm up the belly so you press the low back really hard into the mat. This is really great work for getting to know the spine. And then hug the knees in towards the chest. Just rock up to a seated position. Simple seated here, you want to sit up nice and tall. Take a deep breath in, reach the hands up, and exhale the hands to the heart center. If you're setting an intention or a prayer for your practice, here's some quiet space to do that here. And we're going to move into tabletop position, so kneeling on all fours. You want to make sure that your hands come underneath your shoulders and your knees come underneath your hips. Spread your fingertips nice and wide. And you can either tuck your toes under here or take the tops of your feet flat to the mat, but I want you to find a flat back. So taking that curve out of the low back. And then we'll begin to move through cow pose and cat pose. So this is a really great pose for stretching out the spine, the back, just getting all those kinks worked out. And you don't need to over exaggerate the arch in the back on your cow pose, but try to puff the back in the cat pose. Good, so cow pose here with the belly sinking down, pull the heart forward, concentrate more on that. There you go. And then cat pose, angry cat, chin in towards the chest. Beautiful. Let's take one more here, cow pose. And pressing the ground away, come into a cat pose. Good. Big toes together, child's pose. Make a lot of space for the belly, so knees as wide as the mat. Hands walk forward, child's pose. And just take a few deep breaths here. Allow this to be a space to maybe come back to your intention. You can also flip your palms up as a gesture of surrender. And just breathe into any spaces that need to be let go. And sometimes this is a physical tension, but a lot of times this is a mental let go that you need. Just take a few more moments here, breathing and preparing yourself for the phase 2, which is a more active phase of yoga. Okay, let's make our way back into tabletop position, kneeling on all fours, hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Go ahead and adjust however you need to get into this position. Then tuck your toes under, lift your hips up to the sky, and find a nice position with your hands so that your hands are kind of at a diagonal angle from your shoulders. Begin to walk the dog, slowly pedaling the feet out. So this is a slow movement to stretch the backs of the legs. You can also begin to gently shake the head, yes and no, or maybe gently moving it from side to side. Find any type of movement that feels comfortable, and be sure to take a bend into the backs of the knees so that you can really stretch the hips up as high as you can towards the ceiling. Make sure that the ears stay in line with the biceps, so you're not jutting the neck forward or pressing it too far back. And on your next inhale, shift into a high plank position so that the shoulders are in line with the hips, inner thighs rotate together. If this is too much for you, you can drop down to the knees, just taking a modified plank. You're still getting all the benefits, especially if you're holding that core in nice and tight. Really press the ground away with the hands, spreading the fingertips nice and wide. Just a couple deep breaths as you build some heat in the body. And then we'll go ahead and lower all the way down to the belly for a moment of rest. Hands are underneath the shoulders. We're going to move into what we call a cobra lift. Go ahead and gently rise up, pull the heart forward and lengthen the neck. So you have this really long neck, no weight into the hands, just gently resting the hands onto the mat. So we're really turning the back muscles on here. Good, reaching through the crown of the head, deep breath in and exhale to release. Good, we're gonna do that one more. You can kind of rock the hips side to side, a little release there. And then pulling back with the fingertips, not a lot of weight into the hands here. Pull the heart forward, lift up with the crown of the head. Stretch the back. You should really feel those back muscles start to engage and turn on. That's what we're going for. Good. Let's go ahead and come back into that modified plank pose on the knees, or you can go into full plank here. And then lift the hips back and up, downward facing dog. And adjust how you need to. You want to be comfortable. You want to stretch your legs. Make sure your ears stay in line with your biceps, and the biceps are pulling back into their pockets, or the shoulders into their pockets. Good. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and make our way to the front of the mat. So you're going to start to move your feet forward, 1 foot at a time, slowly coming towards the front of the mat. So you want to make sure your ankles come underneath your hips. Really plant your feet down and then grab onto your elbows, bend your knees, and allow the belly to kind of come close to the thighs for a forward fold. Now right here, I really like you to focus on your feet. You should really feel your feet on the ground and a big stretch up the backside of the backside of the body. Good. Or you can also grab onto the ankles here, just getting a little deeper into this forward fold. Remembering to take that bend in the knees to take the pressure off the back. Good. Just a couple of breaths, and go ahead and release. Draw the navel in towards the spine, and then slowly begin to roll up. So think about stacking the vertebrae one at a time as you come into mountain pose, a nice tall standing posture. So mountain pose, you should feel your feet on the ground, your inner thighs rotate in towards one another. Really begin to knit the rib cage together, so move those ribs together and tighten up the belly. Good. And then go ahead and reach the fingertips up towards the sky, interlace pointer finger and thumb, but keep the shoulders down, and then begin to fold to the right hand side. It's a nice side stretch here. And make sure you keep the core nice and strong, and you keep breathing, keeping the feet grounded, and then go ahead and take the other side. Same thing here. Begin to fold over the opposite direction. Just a side stretch. So keeping the core engaged so you're protecting the low back. The core, when we talk about the core, we're talking about the muscles that wrap all the way around the midsection of the body. As you exhale, forward fold, bend the knees always to fold. Plant the hands down on the ground. Take a half lift. So find a straight flat back, nice stretch, and then plant the hands underneath the shoulders. Step back, high plank. Good. Downward facing dog. Nice work. From here, we're going to step the right foot forward, okay? If it doesn't get where it needs to go, just use the right hand to move the ankle underneath the knee. Take a little bend in the back knee. Pull your heart forward in front of that knee. Firm up your belly. And then as you're ready, just reach up to the sky for a crescent lunge. So notice in crescent lunge, your back heel, your left heel's off the ground. And you have a right angle in your front leg, right at the knee. I want you to pull your right hip back a little bit and push your left hip forward. Use your belly here. Shoulders soften. Okay, deep breath in. And exhale. And release the hands down to the ground. Go ahead and step that right foot back, downward facing dog. Let's move on to the left side. So you're just going to step that left foot forward. Same thing here. Get it as far forward as you can, and then use your left hand to move the ankle underneath the knee. Bend the back leg, the right leg, just a tiny bit, and pull the heart forward. And when you're ready, you're going to go ahead and rise up into your full crescent lunge. And making sure the shoulders come over the hips. Remember, that back heel stays nice and high off the mat. It's kind of hard to see in this video, but you want to keep that high. Now here, pull the left hip back just a tiny bit, right hip forward. Straighten into that back leg as much as you can. Split stance here, so lots of focus and balance. Don't forget to breathe. Inhale and exhale. Nice work. Let's take one more breath. And exhale, release the hands down to the floor underneath the shoulders, and then press back to downward facing dog. Good work. All right, let's go ahead and take that walk forward to the front of the mat. I like a nice slow walk so you get a stretch up the legs. And another forward fold here so the ankles are underneath the hip bones. If you'd like to take it deeper, you can grab onto the ankles or just take that forward fold where you grab onto the elbows. Whatever forward fold feels good here. Just remember we're bending the back, the knees. And navel to spine, roll up one vertebrae at a time. Mountain pose. Nice work. All right. So from here, we're going to move on to some standing postures. We're going to start with a warrior one. Bring your feet a little bit closer to touch and step your right leg back. So you're coming into a warrior one. Now, squaring your hips here as much as you can to reach forward, and then you're going to clap your hands together. Just place them behind your head and open up your shoulders. So very important here, you're not pushing on the neck, but you're rather resting your head against your thumbs. Just really big opener here. You're probably feeling a little bit of a back bend. Hopefully you're not feeling that in the low back. If you are, back off and come out of it. Warrior two here. So warrior two, both feet are flat on the mat. You have your back foot totally turned out to the side. Your belly muscles are at work here, and your gaze over your front middle finger. Warrior two. Good. Inhale, straighten both legs, and then exhale, just pivot your weight over to your back foot. Warrior two on the other side. So just facing the opposite direction, still pressing hard into that back foot and that front foot, we have an even distribution of weight into the feet. Swing the back arm forward. Let's take warrior one. Clap the hands together just like we did. Place the hands behind the head. Open up the shoulders. So you should feel a lifting of the heart. Back bends always come from a lifting of the heart, not from the back. Okay, so the more you lift the heart, it may feel like you're going backwards. Good, let's move into warrior two again. Just for a moment, inhale, straighten the legs. Exhale, warrior two towards the front side of the mat. Nice, and just cartwheel the hands down. Step that front foot back. You're in a downward facing dog position. So these smooth transitions, just kind of moving with your breath, but don't worry about it. It will come. A couple deep breaths. You should feel lots of heat in the body. These standing postures are classic for creating heat in the body. Let's go ahead and walk the hands towards the feet, kind of at the back side of the mat. You can take a little bit deeper of a forward fold here if you'd like, grabbing onto the back sides of the legs. Just make sure you're really releasing that low back. And if you can, pull shoulders into their pockets. Roll up, we're going to come into balancing postures. So go ahead and find a nice focal point for your balancing postures, something you can look at. Bring your feet together to touch. And then when you're ready, when you're focused, start to find tree pose. So you're going to press the foot into the ankle or the shin and turn the knee out towards the side. Now, one rule about tree pose is that you never want to put the foot on the knee, so you can go above the knee or below the knee. Keep rotating the knee out to the side. Hands can come to heart center. You can also extend the arms up if you like, just kind of deepening the posture. There's lots of variations you can take in a tree pose, but if you're feeling wobbly, feel free to practice with a chair next to you. And your foot does not need to come up this high. You can keep it down. You can even do a kickstand tree pose. Go ahead and lower the right leg down. Take a deep breath in, reach the hands up, and slowly as you exhale, just press the air out of the body. It's like pressing the reset button, using our breath to calm us, because we have the other side to do. So left foot, kickstand tree pose to start. You can stay in kickstand tree pose. You can move the foot up to the ankle, the shin, the calf, or you can reach down, grab the foot, and find your inner thigh. So just remember, not on the knee. You're going to make this practice your own. So you really want to figure out where your tree pose is here. And then if you're ready, you can add on the arms, all different variations. You can take the same variation on the other side. You should feel like you're really growing tall here. You can take pointer finger and thumb together. You can even separate the hands here and just kind of lift the heart. Really, really just opening up here. Good. And a couple deep breaths. Go ahead and come down and just bring your hands to your heart center. And that finishes off our standing postures. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up this practice. So start in a seated position. I really like to get the feet out in front of you and hug the knees in towards the chest. So you're sitting on your sits bones, and then pull on the back of your legs. This is my favorite position by far. Here you can pull your back nice and long. You should feel like you have a board against your back. It should feel really, really good. And just take a moment here to take a few deep breaths. Good. And then from here, we're going to start to move into what we call Baddha Konasana pose, or butterfly pose. Your legs kind of look like a butterfly. We're going to take the knees out to the sides and the bottoms of the feet together. You still have that nice flat back, and you're sitting on the sits bones. Good. And I like to tell you, if your knees are super high, you can move your feet further away from your body. If you have a lot of flexibility in the hips, you can move the feet closer to the body. You can take your hands to your ankles or pull up on your big toes. You'll feel a nice release in the low back there. Then pull the heart forward and just allow your head to kind of point forehead down towards the toes. So pressing the knees down towards the floor, pulling up on those ankles or big toes to create some space in the low back, which is always a really tender spot. And just a couple deep breaths here. In restorative postures, we just tend to hold things a little bit longer. Remember, each time you exhale, to go just a tiny bit deeper. Go ahead and sit back up. Draw the knees back together. We're going to use the strap here. So take your strap around the bottoms of your feet. So reach forward. We have straight legs here. You want to wiggle around, find your sits bones. So you're sitting on those sits bones. Then pulling on the strap, you want to pull your heart forward, 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 as far forward as you can go. And then begin to soften the head, neck, and shoulders down so that the forehead points down towards the knees. Just a great big hamstring stretch. You may have seen this pose on the cover of some type of yoga magazine, but remember that everybody has different length hamstrings. So wherever you are at, I'm pretty sure you're exactly where you need to be. Just breathe into this space. With each exhale, you're just going to go just a tiny bit deeper. It doesn't have to be even anything physical. And then go ahead and release. Remove the strap. We'll come back to that strap in just a little bit. And we're going to take that right leg, stack it around the straight left leg, take the right hand behind the back, take the left hand to that right knee, and begin to move into a twist. So you're moving the belly or the rib cage over toward that thigh. If you'd like to, you can bring the elbow to the knee to go even deeper. But remember here, we have a nice straight back, so no curves back. Number one, straight back. Number two, begin to initiate your twist. Rib cage is moving towards that thigh. Good. And micro movements. Each time you exhale, it's just a tiny let go. And sometimes this let go is actually a mental let go, a mental release rather than a physical release. Good. Unwind. We're going to take that right foot, press it into the inner thigh of the left leg, and then grab your strap again, wrap it around that left foot. It's the same thing as we did in the forward fold here. We're going to begin to pull the heart forward, forehead down towards the knee. Just a little bit, adding a hip opener on the right side as well as just loving on that left leg. So since we created all this heat in the body in our standing postures, we'll notice that we can do these stretches with a little more ease than if we just kind of went into them nice and cold. And that's what yoga is about. Just creating some heat and some space so we can have some growth in the movement and range of motion and flexibility in our body. Let's take one more breath here. And unwind. Remove the strap. We're going to move into that twist on the opposite side. So left leg, you're going to bend the knee and then cross the left foot over the right straight leg and begin to move your twist. So first find that flat back on your sits bones, rib cage to thigh, and then maybe your elbow comes to your knee. It does not have to. You can keep the hand to the knee. And then you just want to keep rotating through this twist. Keep moving in a, maybe taking your gaze towards the back wall. Keep twisting, twisting, twisting. Twisting postures are good for detoxification because what they do is put a little bit of pressure on all those internal organs. And by putting some pressure on the organs, we are stimulating them to kind of get moving, to help do their job. Good. Go ahead and release. We'll take that forward fold. So left leg comes into the inner thigh. Flex the right foot. Add the strap. So I'll give you a couple variations on this side if you want to go try something different. So first start with the strap if you'd like. Pull the heart forward. You're extending that low back and then pulling forward. Try to soften the shoulders. Try to keep the knee straight. Good. Now, as you start to get into this pose, if you feel like you can go a bit deeper, you can inch your hands up the strap or totally remove the strap and maybe grab your block here. So if you want to add your block, what you do is you just bring the block to that foot and just extend your reach, just allowing you to get a little bit more pressure. Now, super deep posture here, you can flip the block lengthwise, totally put it against your foot and press against that foot. Just helps to extend through the calf muscle and soften the shoulders. Pull just a tiny bit deeper. And don't forget to breathe. That's an important part of yoga. Good. Go ahead and release the block. Unwind your legs. And we're going to do a C curve down. Keep your block close by. Go ahead and lift your knees up where we started. You're on your sits bones. Begin to draw the chin in towards your chest. Roll back. Roll, roll, roll. Nice work. And I'm just going to adjust a little bit here so my head's not cut off. Good. And from here, we're going to come into that bridge pose like we started class. Now, if you don't have a block, do not worry about it. You can do bridge pose just like we started class without it. But if you have one, give it a try. Put it in between the thighs. So notice it's not touching the knees. And then go ahead and go into your bridge pose, just lifting those hips up. So by doing this, we're strengthening the inner thighs, the outer thighs, the glutes. Just adding the block just helps to bring attention to which muscles we should be using in this posture. Press into your feet, squeeze the block, lift the hips, breathe. And then go ahead and gently come down, one vertebrae at a time. Take the block away. We are done with that for this moment. We may use it in the next pose. Again, if you have one, you will keep it close by. If not, so we're going to come into legs up a wall. So this would be just a legs up a wall variation. It's considered an inversion. Anytime you get the feet above the head, the heart, you're dousing the body with blood flow that's been pulling in those legs all day. So you can keep a gentle bend in the knees if you'd like. If you want to try adding the block, you can slide it underneath the hips. This is a really yummy pose. I love this pose. Just kind of supporting your legs up a wall posture. It also helps to extend the spine. You'll feel that if you add it. Again, if you don't have a block yet, you can just use this posture without the block, how we started. And we've got about 60 seconds in this pose just to really get all the benefits. You want to keep flexing your feet. Hopefully you get a little bit of a shake into your legs. Just the neurological connections being made with the work that you've done in the brain. It's normal for your feet to start to kind of feel tingly and warm. Just breathe. And feel free to move. So yoga is not about just like getting into a posture and holding perfectly still. Sometimes you need to just kind of wiggle around with the hips a little bit. Feel the body. Great work. Just a couple more breaths here. We'll reach our 60-second mark. Good, and let's go ahead and come out of this. If you had the block there, just go ahead and remove the block. We're going to finish off with what we call supine spinal twist. Supine just meaning lying down. We started class with this similar motion, just finishing off with a twist. So flopping the knees to the right, take the gaze to the left. I really like cactus arms. Helps to open my tight shoulders, but if that's too much on your shoulders, you can just put your hands into a T position. A couple deep breaths here. You don't need to be forcing anything in this posture. Gravity naturally kind of helps you open up and twist. And knees up and over. Let's finish off on the other side. So flopping those knees down. Gaze opposite direction. Good. And just keep breathing. You can begin to maybe gently close the eyes. We're preparing ourselves for Shavasana, or our final resting pose. So Shavasana is just a time to be restored and renewed. So begin to let all the tensions of the day really melt away. Well, here we are in our most important yoga pose that you're going to do today, Shavasana. Take some time to get comfortable. So you want to add socks or a sweater or blankets, whatever you need to lay in a position that you feel that you can keep that heat that you just created in your body in you, and also move anything out of the way that might be touching your body, any blocks or straps. And I like to get comfortable, ankles out to the edges of the mat, hands just drooping down by the sides. And it's also called corpse pose, so kind of just dead man pose, just laying completely untampered with. And take a couple deep breaths to initiate this pose. And so you spend this time just really letting go. You can spend this time in quiet space, prayer or meditation, just being open to hearing the sound of silence. Also, a good way to spend Shavasana is with some gentle music playing. However you want to spend this time, I encourage you to just end this video now and just spend 3 to 5 minutes in complete rest. So let's take one more deep breath in and exhale and find yourself at complete ease. Shavasana.